The Russian combat troops, they are now on high alert as President Vladimir Putin orders surprise war games right on the doorstep of Ukraine. It's the latest disturbing fallout from the violent upheaval in Ukraine, and it comes as thousands of pro and anti-Russia demonstrators take to the streets in Ukraine's southern region of Crimea, where there's an explosive mix of political and ethnic tensions, and where Russia bases its own Black Sea fleet. Let's go straight to CNN's Fred Pleitgen. He's on the ground in Crimea for us. Fred, tell us what's going on.
Hi, Wolf. Yeah, well, there's a big Russian population here in the Crimean Peninsula, and a lot of those Russians want Crimea to be part of Russia rather than be part of Ukraine. That's why you had this massive demonstration today where both of these sides faced off against each other, and I want you to take a look at what happened there. When tensions fly this high, there's very little room for debate. Thousands of pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian protesters faced off on the Crimean Peninsula, an area with a substantial Russian population. The question, should Crimea remain Ukrainian or join Russia? Crimea is a Ukrainian territory, this man says, and all these demands to hand it to Russia are totally baseless. On the pro-Russian side, a very different view. Crimea should be Russian, he says. In Russia, there are many cultures, and they all have rights. In Ukraine, languages are banned and marginalized. One protester died during the demonstration, even as a line of police and local leaders tried to keep the two sides apart.
The situation here shows the deep divisions in Ukrainian society. On the one hand, you have thousands of pro-Russians, and on the other, thousands of pro-Ukrainians. Right now, they're screaming at each other, there's pushing and shoving, but no violence yet.
The large Russian population in southern Ukraine fears they might suffer under the new leadership in Kiev, that the Russian language and Russian culture might be banned. And some are taking the law into their own hands. As we drove past the many Russian military bases near the garrison town of Sevastopol, we saw this: a pro-Russian militia manning checkpoints, together with local police who are clearly not loyal to the government in Kiev. The men had an armored vehicle. They didn't let us film. We took these pictures with our cell phones. The militia answers to this man, Alexei Chali, the new mayor of Sevastopol, elected Sunday in a vote the central government says was illegal. Many here hail him as a champion of Russian interests. Chali says his new force is an anti-terror unit. Because there is grave danger, we are founding an anti-terror center, he says, that will coordinate all of our security forces. Fear, uncertainty, and anger are driving many people in Ukraine out into the streets these days. They feel these are decisive times and might determine the future of their nation.
As you can see, Wolf, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, and of course always the danger that all of this could get out of hand. And then, of course, there is that specter of perhaps Russia getting involved if things get worse here. Wolf?
As you know, Fred, Ukrainian authorities have ordered the breakup of one of their elite security police forces accused of randomly shooting into crowds in Kiev. And we're now learning that many of these police units, they're moving into Crimea, where you are right now. How significant is that?
It is very significant. It's the Berkut force, and as you said, that force was disbanded on Tuesday by this new interim president. And now what's going on is that this mayor that you just saw in that report, he says that he's actually going to continue to pay those people. He says he's gotten money from somewhere. He didn't say where he'd get it from, and he was going to continue to pay them. And when those Berkut forces came from Kiev back to the Crimean region, they were actually cheered by the people there. So certainly they won't have to face any repercussions. And there are some people who want to actually still keep that force alive. One of them is that new separatist mayor there in the town of Sevastopol. So a very charged situation right now. That certainly is something that the central government in Kiev is not going to let happen, Wolf.
Fred Pleitgen, be careful over there. We'll check back with you. Thank you. Up next.